Welcome to the Friendly Palestinian podcast. This is my first episode, and this is a new podcast that's going to be streaming on Spotify, RSS, and YouTube. And for my first guest, I have with me Letizia Musella from Italy, who came to the UAE for better job opportunities, I would say. So first of all, I'd like you to just introduce us to yourself. Who is Letizia?
Oh wow!
Let's start there.
First of all, thank you for having me, Bashar. It's such a great honor to be the first guest on your podcast.
Honor to have you.
So who I am? Oh my God, such a big question. Usually I don't like answering this question because I'm many things. And I do many things and I like many things, but yeah, mainly I'm Letizia and I'm Italian, and I moved in Abu Dhabi in September last year, and I work in arts and culture, specifically in sponsorship and partnership. So I create connections between the private sector and the cultural organizations, let's say. Yes, I'm 31 years old.
Wow, you don't look 31 at all.
Thank you so much. I'll pay you later. And yes.
So my first question to you would be, what was your first impressions moving from Italy to the UAE as a newcomer to this region? But as I know, you've been here before,
yes, exactly.
but not living in Abu Dhabi and working.
Yes.
So what was your first impressions on the whole experience? Like, what's your impression about the Emirati culture in general or the Arab culture?
Okay, so yeah, as you said, my first time in the Gulf region, let's say, was more than 10 years ago in 2013. I came to Bahrain for 3 months for an exchange program with my university at the time, and that was my first, step into this region that I didn't know anything about. And when I first came here, it was summer, and it was during Ramadan. So I'd say the first time was all that I could possibly experience.
Yeah.
The extremely hot season and Ramadan. My second time here after 10 years. My first impression is that, of course, the region has changed a lot, especially here in the Emirates. There's such a fast-paced development in terms of constructions and buildings, so the skyline and the landscape I found it completely changed in just 10 years. So that only was very fascinating to witness. It was September, so it was again extremely hot.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So the first few months were a bit tough because, as you know, it's very difficult to be outside because there's a lot of humidity. I remember being in my hotel where I was staying for the first 2 weeks, opening the window of my hotel room, and basically the glass and the mirror were covered with mist because of the humidity coming in the room. So, but yeah, other than that was usually when you go when you move to a new place, there's always a period of adjustment. But I did not have that cultural shock because in a way I already knew the culture.
Yeah, you knew what you were getting yourself into in
exactly.
a way. Cool. That's really nice. So another question would be, have you found it difficult to connect with other Italians in the UAE? Or if not, then what helped you to create this sense of belonging to the community and connecting with other Italians like yourself who came here to work?
Well, actually there's I would say a pretty big Italian community here in the Emirates and also in Abu Dhabi. I think we are more than 3,000, more or less.
In Abu Dhabi?
In Abu Dhabi, only in Abu Dhabi.
Wow.
Yeah. And what helped me at the beginning was that I was already connected to, I followed an Instagram profile of a guy who is living here with his wife, and he does YouTube videos.
Oh.
So before I moved here, I used to watch his videos to, trying to understand what I was getting into and where he was living, and he's giving suggestions. His name is Max, by the way. So my suggestion for whoever moved to another country is trying to, even before going into the country, trying to find online some groups, expat groups, to kind of find your community even before, and connecting with this community even before you're moving into the country, because you can ask many advices, and people already live there can help you so much.
For sure.
So
I think it's really important, which brings me to something I really wanted to ask you. What advice would you give someone, especially a young woman who's traveling from Europe to the Middle East for the first time in her life? Someone who hasn't had the, shall I say, privilege of coming here before and knowing what are the societal norms here, what are the cultural things that you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do, things like not walking around in a skirt even though it's 40 degrees outside, or maybe not holding hands in public with someone like a guy from the opposite sex. So things like that might be a bit controversial in the UAE as opposed to where you've come from. So what advice would you give them?
This is such a good question, first of all, and yes, I would say that for one advice that I want to give is that for sure you need to kind of do your own research, on the country that you're going to move to, but at the same time don't get too lost in the common places around that might be around like a certain culture or a certain country, because at the end of the day, if you move to a place and you bring with yourself a lot of limiting beliefs, you cannot do this, you must be careful, at the end of the day you're not going to enjoy the experience. So you have to keep an open-minded and of course do your research. But when I came here, a lot of my friends were kind of worried, about me. Oh my God, you're moving to an Arab country, you're alone, you're a woman. But at the same time, I tried not to listen too much to this kind of, talks and advices, because I wanted to come here with, an open-minded and really experience myself what this place and this culture really is. And at the end of the day, especially the Emirates, it's a very safe country. So I did not expect this. I heard about this, that the UAE is a very safe country, but I experienced it myself. So for me, being a single woman, even walking around whatever hour of even at night, walking alone here at Rim, I always feel safe. And
it's great that you mention safety, because that's one of the main reasons that people move here, because they think, and it is true, that it's much safer than many European countries. You've recently had an experience with that. I didn't want to bring it up, but since you mentioned safety and all of that, can you tell my audience what happened to you, and try to have it in contrast with what the UAE is. So as you say, you're a woman, you're quite lovely yourself, you're beautiful, so if you walk in the streets in Abu Dhabi, you feel that safety. However, when you traveled to Italy to visit your family before you came back here again, what happened?
Basically what happened is that I got robbed in Milan, in the city center, in a very lovely area of the city, so it's not like a dangerous area, and it was noon. I was having lunch with a friend. I made the mistake of putting my purse on the side of my chair, and by the time I finished the lunch, basically my purse was gone.
I think that's something that the UAE has a fault to play there, because you got used to this kind of safety that's here.
Yes.
You just tend to leave things around and you find them. But
yes, true. You know, like I've been living here for almost 1 year at this point, and I feel like my guard, as you know, I let my guard down a little bit. When I go out, you know, I don't care where I leave my purse here, and I can leave money on the table, go to the bathroom, come back, and my money is still there. So that's what we are talking about.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah.
Exactly. Now, thank you for sharing your experience.
You're welcome.
I would love to shift the topic, and one might think a bit dramatically, to talk a little bit about freedom, in your opinion. And it kind of ties into the whole Palestinian narrative, and me being a Palestinian, finding it difficult to travel. I need a visa anywhere I go, virtually. And it's not that easy to obtain visas these days, especially for Palestinians, due to recent conflicts, and it's a long story. But I would like to ask you, as Letizia, as a European citizen, someone who's from Italy, what defines freedom? What is freedom in your opinion? Is it the freedom of movement? Is it the freedom within oneself? So what is freedom to you?
Yeah. Again, this is such a great question. I love your podcast. No, but yeah, it's a very interesting topic, and as you were saying, I believe freedom means different things to different people, and it really depends on how and where you grew up, which kind of experiences you had. So for example, in my case, I'm Italian, and my passport is one of the strongest passport in the world. So for example, the freedom of movement, it's something that I used to take it for granted, you know. It's bad to say, but it is what it is. When you grew up in a certain way, you kind of take it for granted. So for me personally, freedom, it means truly be myself. So kind of peel these layers of this onion that we all are, and we are surrounded by these layers and conditioning of the like what we think we are supposed to be, the person we are supposed to be in order to be loved, because at the end of the day we all want to be loved. And so it takes a lot of courage to, you know, peel these layers, and at the end of the day understand who you really are and bring that into the world. And because maybe that person is a person that won't be accepted in certain situations or certain you know, like environments, but at the end of the day, you know, you cannot pretend to be someone you're not. And what a sad life to pretend you're someone you're not. And people who love you will stick with you and will support you. And people who don't, I mean, they're not meant to be in your life anyway. So like for me, you know, for me that's what freedom really is. And yeah.
That's quite lovely, actually. So basically what you're saying is that freedom is when you are actually your true self. How does that differ than being true to yourself? Like being honest and open with yourself and not with other people. Does it kind of tie into freedom or not? Because I see a lot of people who are true to themselves. They're honest with themselves. They don't fake their opinions, and they are at peace with who they are. They love themselves. And self-love is another topic. It needs a whole different podcast. And I don't want to go there. But I just want to say that freedom is it's a very, very broad topic that we can go on and on about. But I just want to understand to you, Does it mean to be free with yourself? Does it mean to be true to you, who you are, and stick to that? Or does it mean to show what you want to show people? And as you said, peel off all these layers and just show the people your true self?
Yeah, I think first of all you have to truly understand who you really are, you know?
How does a person do that?
I mean, you have to tune into your intuition, to try to feel in your body what brings you joy, you know, what makes you feel alive. And sometimes these are things that you truly feel into your body. You have body sensation when you do something you like, you defend maybe a person, or you defend the beliefs that you believe in, and that may be controversial. For example, you were talking about the Palestinian situation. For example, in my country, some, I don't know, influencers or some people, I think we're not free to really express their opinion on this political situation, because that may have caused them some problem in their business or in their freedom of saying what they really think. But at the end of the day, if you're not true to yourself and to your beliefs, and if you're not free to express them just because you're depending on, I don't know, what people think about you, on what you believe could cause in money-wise or work-wise, whatever.
What can bring you harm, essentially.
Yes. At the end of the day, you're gonna live a more convenient life, more comfortable life, but it's not gonna
free.
be. Yeah.
You're not gonna be free. Exactly. Yeah. That's very true. Well, that's basically it. I wanted to keep this short and sweet, not go too long into details.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say thank you so much, Leti, for being here with me. This is my first episode, and I don't know if it's gonna be a good one or a bad one, but I read once that you have to be a disaster in order to be a master.
True.
So let's start there and see where this goes.
And I want to say one last thing.
Please.
And that's why I encourage you when you talk to me about your idea. Is because I think nowadays we live in a time when we are so used to consume content, news, information. So we are losing the ability to create something and not just passively consuming, news and information. So I applaud you for that, to trying to bring into life an idea. And
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone who's listening or watching this podcast. I really appreciate every single one of you who watched till the end. And I hope you took away some valuable lessons from today, especially for those of you who are planning a trip or planning to relocate for work or for whatever reason. And I would like to end this by saying that this podcast is going to be, our slogan is going to be freedom and more. So I'll leave it at that and hope to see you next time. And I really hope that everyone tunes in and listens to this podcast, and share it with your friends if you like it. Thank you so much, everyone.
You want to thank your sponsor?
Which sponsor?
Yourself.
I don't have a sponsor
for doing this podcast.